So let's have a look now at setting up our panel layouts. The first thing we need to consider is our panel enclosure. Then we're going to consider things like our footprints for things like push buttons and so on and so forth. Pilot lights is another thing that you would have on a panel. So I've got a completely blank default Imperial drawing open here using the autocad.dwt template. What I'm going to do is add that as an active drawing to my project. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go here like this, right click, and I can add the drawing like so, or new drawing. I don't get add active drawing. That's because I haven't saved it and renamed it yet. So what I need to do here is I need to do a save as, make sure I go to the right place, which is my panel layouts folder there, and into the drawings folder. There's the project folder, and this folder is currently empty. Now, remember the naming terminology, JIC, and then a dash, and then this one will be panel enclosure. I'll save that. That's now been named, and what I'll do is I'll click on save there, just so you've got the title, nice and easy to read. Now, when I select the project and right click, I can add that active drawing, like so. Do you want to apply the project default values? Yes, I do. It'll update, and it's now just a blank drawing in the project itself. So if I click on the plus there, there's my JIC panel enclosure drawing. So what I might do there now is just right click, properties, drawing properties, just change that sheet value, 001, and OK it, just to make sure that it's all numerically correct and reads properly. So we now need to add a panel. You'll notice we have a panel tab on the ribbon, and we can go and add a panel directly from the icon menu. It has an icon menu just like the schematic does. So I'll click on OK there on this invisible block. This invisible block is part of AutoCAD Electrical. And you'll notice it's just a blank block that actually allows for full compatibility of AutoCAD Electrical. So what it does is it ties everything together and allows you to work with the symbol libraries, basically. So if I click on OK to that, it inserts this invisible block, and I'm now in my panel layout symbols rather than my schematic symbols. So if I go to enclosures now, and do a catalog lookup, there's my catalog of all my enclosures there. And I've got lots of different ones. Look, there's slave enclosures, designed to house. If I hover here, if I hover over any of these fields, it tells me what they say. So there's all different ones, operated by oil, type key locking handle, 3-point latching mechanism, and so on. I'm just going to go to the top of the list and select the one at the top. And I'm going to click on OK. It puts the information in. Add entry to manufacturer, so I can add a new entry to the manufacturer specific table, and that would be SCE, and match it with an existing footprint block or drawing file. I don't need to do that. I'm just going to OK it, and there it is there. It's rather large, so I'll just zoom out a bit, and as you can see, it's there. So I'm just going to go up to about here and click, and that will place everything. Notice I can flip it around if I want to. Once I'm happy with the position, I click again, and that is now inserted in the drawing. Now you'll notice it's got the option to put item number, installation, location, tag, and so on. There's the manufacturer there. What I'm going to do here is line 1, I'm going to put panel as a description for that and OK it. So that's all in place. Double click on your wheel now, and you'll see there that you've got various views of your panel. You've got a front view for the door. You've got a side view there of what it looks like from the side. Obviously you might need to work on that. We're going to be concentrating on that middle view there. So you can see that that's where we're going to be placing our footprints. So that's our panel enclosure in place. If I click on this, you'll see that each one of those is a block. I don't need the door. I can delete that. And I don't need the side view. I can delete that. So there is my view of my enclosure ready to go. What we'll do in the next video is look at how we place footprints into the panel and start developing our panel even further. What we're going to look at now is inserting a push button footprint into our panel enclosure. I've created a drawing here, so it's JIC push button footprint. And as we work through this, we're going to take it sequentially down through each stage of generating the panel enclosure. Now, all of these drawings are available in the working file, so don't worry about missing a drawing. It'll all be in there ready for you to use. So there's the drawing. What we'll do, we'll go to our project, right click, add active drawing, yes to the project default values, and you'll see there push button footprint. Now numbering, I need to just right click and go to properties and change the sheet number to make sure that sequentially we're numbering properly and that the project is neat and tidy. Now we've already got our panel enclosure in place. I'm going to zoom and pan, and I'm going to zoom in on that top left corner. So you can see the corner there of the panel enclosure. There's the bracket that holds it on the wall. Now we go to the panel tab on the ribbon, insert component footprints, and just like you would with schematics now, we're going to go to the icon menu again. This time we're going to go to push buttons, and we've got a choice of various push buttons we can bring in. We've got a standard push button normally closed, and so on and so forth. We've got illuminated mushroom buttons, you know, the red ones that you see, the stop buttons, things like that. So you might want to select one of those. I'm going to go for a mushroom head button NO, normally open, that one there. Catalog lookup takes a few seconds, and there's our catalog lookup of various push buttons I can use. I'm going to go for quite a big one. You'll notice that there's red plastic. There's a 2 1/4 inch red one there, so I'm going to select that one there and OK it. As you can see, I can add the entry to the manufacturer to the table. I don't need to do that in this case, but you could if you wanted to. You can check, you can do drawing only, all the usual selection settings. I'll click on OK. What it's doing now is it's thinking about where the particular file is for that particular block. So it's looking it up, you can see it there, and there it is. It's asking for a location. It does take a few minutes to find these, so don't go clicking stuff thinking that it's not loading up. It's searching a database for your selection. So I'm just going to place that there. And as you can see, it's there. It's now asking me for the rotation. I can specify the rotation there. I'm just going to press enter to accept the default. And now you can see it's asking me for the component insert edit information. There's the information from the catalog, which means it will go into the bill of materials. And what I'm going to do here is make sure that I put the right information in the description, which in this case will obviously be push button. Now I can go OK repeat. There's another one there. And what I can do here, if I put my polar tracking on and line that in horizontally like that, I might place another one there. And I'll OK repeat again. And line another one in, say, there. Again, I'm not too worried about the spacings between them. And then I'll click on OK. And there's my push buttons in my panel enclosure. So that's how you set up your push button footprint. These are just symbols, but they're catalog symbols, so they will go in the bill of materials because they're catalog data rather than just components with no database data associated with them. As I said, we're going to work sequentially through this panel layout. So we've already set up our push buttons. They're sitting there at the top of our panel enclosure. The next step is to put some pilot lights in place. Now again, this is a training example. I'm showing you how to do this. This would not be the exact way of setting up a panel enclosure. What I'm doing is giving you worked examples so that you can then apply this to what you do at work. So let's have a look now at our project. As usual, right click, add active drawing. We'll apply the project default values. And you'll notice there, because I've copied and saved as, it's got 002 as the sheet number, so we'll just right click on there, drawing properties, and make sure that that is 003. I know this is only training, but get into the habit of doing this. It makes life so much easier later. There is nothing worse than looking for a drawing that is not associated with your project drawing list. As before, I'm going to pan and zoom in, and I'm just going to pan to the right-hand corner now of the panel enclosure. I'm going to go up to the panel tab, and again, go to the icon menu here. And this time we're looking for pilot lights. There's the pilot lights there, the bulb. Click on there. And I've got various pilot lights that I can apply to my panel enclosure. I'm going to go for a press red to test. Again, catalog lookup. Everything catalogued will go into the bill of materials. Anything that is not catalogued and doesn't have a catalog value will not go in your bill of materials. Now I've got a choice here. I've got 3 different types. I've got a plastic lens, a glass lens, or a plastic lens. I'm going to go for the glass lens and click on OK. It depends on what environment you're working in. You might go for a plastic lens, for example, for a different type of environment. The air might be different, something like that. Glass lens, obviously a lot more robust. There's the catalog lookup information. Again, I can add the entry to the manufacturer if I wish. I click on OK. Takes a few seconds again, remember. It's going through the database to find your information. It does have to think about this. It takes a while. It's a big database with lots of information in it. So it's searching for wildcard match, specify location, there's my pilot light. It does take a few seconds, so be patient. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put snap and grid on, and you'll notice now I can snap to the grid. I want to place these pilot lights exactly on the grid, so I'm going to put one there. Select rotation, rotation's fine, I'll press enter to accept, and I'll do an OK repeat. But before I do that, make sure you put pilot light in the description. Always a good thing to do, then people know what it is. OK repeat. Line another one in, and you can see this time, as I do it, the pilot light stays there in the line 1 of the description. But because I'm using snap and grid, unlike the push buttons, these are all exactly spaced. So I should have put snap and grid on when I was doing my push buttons. I've missed one there. Can you see that? I'm just going to cancel that one because I put it in the wrong place. But again, I could just carry on. Rather than put loads of them there and keep going ad nauseum, you can see what I mean though. Look, they're all neatly spaced in a line with an even distance between each one. So use your snap and grid to your advantage as well. That's our pilot light footprint in place now as well in our panel enclosure. So what we'll look at in the next step is the nameplate for our panel as well. You would obviously install a nameplate on your panel as well, telling people what the panel is, what it does, what the buttons, what the pilot lights are used for, and so on and so forth. So we're going to insert a nameplate now. Again, I've created the next sequential drawing, so it's a nameplate footprint. So make sure that you add that to your project. Again, can't stress it enough. It's a good habit to get into. Repetition aids retention. Always do it. Get into the habit of adding your drawings to your drawing list in your project. Yes to the project default values, obviously. Because I've copied and saved as, I need to just check the properties there and change the sheet number. Make sure that's sheet 4. So there's our nameplate footprint drawing right there. We're going up to the panel tab. We're going to the icon menu again. And now we're looking at all the information. We've got DIN rails and so on. Nameplates is right there, right on the front screen. You've got a generic one, generic tag number only, nameplate catalog lookup, and so on and so forth. I'm just going to put a generic nameplate in. Now it's asking for the component for the nameplate insert. I'm going to select that there, the panel enclosure, and press enter to confirm. Nameplate description, panel. What I might do there as well is I might put panel nameplate and put NO.1, number 1 maybe. Again, I'm not too worried about the information, but we do need to make sure that we look up a nameplate. So we've got various nameplates there. You've got white, red or grey. I'm going to live on the edge a little bit there and go for a red custom text nameplate. So I click on OK. There's the information. I don't need to repeat this time. I only need the one nameplate, so I'm going to OK that. And again, it's looking in the database for this information. So you'll notice there's a little green object here. A different footprint found. Do you want to change the footprint block? I can change it if I want to. I'm going to leave it as it is, like so. It searches for the wildcard match. And again, it takes a little bit of time to do this, so give it time to do it. You're looking in a big database for information. Now, you'll notice there's a little plate there. Going to zoom in on that now. As if by magic, there's our nameplate. Now, obviously, I've picked the wrong place for that. It's used a default location. So what I need to do is I just need to move that. But I'm going to select it as a component, remember? Don't just use the move command. Select it, right-click, and you'll notice it is just a move this time. There is no component involved. It's just purely a block. So what I've got to do, select the information, right-click, move, pick a base point. So I'll just do a shift and a right-click there and go for an endpoint snap. Now you notice I've got snap and grid on there, which is making things a little bit complicated, jerky. So what we'll do, we'll go like that and we'll move it. And what I'll do, there's a nice little space down there in the corner. So I'll just place that, say there, and there's my panel nameplate. So as I zoom out now, you can see I've got a nameplate, push buttons, pilot lights. Nothing perfect, nothing exact sort of industry standard there. I've just shown you how to do it so that you can apply this at any time when you're working in industry with AutoCAD Electrical. So we've now put our nameplate footprint in there as well. We've already created our panel enclosure and we've put our push button, pilot light and nameplate footprints in there. What we need to start thinking about now is the schematic for this particular panel that we've set up. I've already set up a drawing there. I'll just click on Save. And as you can see there, when I click on Save, JIC panel schematic. What we need to do is add the active drawing to our project. So I go there, right click, add active drawing, apply the project default values as usual. Right click properties, drawing properties, change the sheet number there to 005, and OK that will update. Now, I'm just using a blank drawing in this particular instance. I'm not too worried about exact things here. I'm showing you how to do this. You would obviously have a title block and make it look completely professional. What I'm going to do, though, is just put a wiring ladder in and show you how you link your components back to your panel. So that's what we've got to look at first of all. So let's have a look at our wiring loom. Now, before we do that, go to the Home tab. Check the layers because you've applied the project settings there. There's the wires layer. Let's make sure it's there. And what I will do as well to make it stand out, change the color. Maybe make it a red, for example, so that when I draw anything on that wires layer, it's red. So let's go back to the schematic tab and I want a wiring ladder here. Now remember, I'm using JIC, which obviously is in inches. So we don't want 400 inches there, for example. That's a throwback to a previous project setting. I'm going to make it 12 inches with a spacing each time of 2 inches, like so. And notice it's defaulting to horizontal, which is part of the project and drawing settings. And I'll say that I want, let's say, 11 rungs. Now, as soon as I put 11 rungs in there and press tab, that'll update and it will change the length because it's looked at these width and spacing settings here. If I change that to, say, 6 rungs and then press tab, the length updates again. So there's my spacing. So as long as you've got a spacing and a length and put your 6 rungs in, that's how it would work. That width will be that way. Do you see what's happening there? Look at the little pictures if you don't get it. Length is 11 and I want 6 rungs. Spacing 2 between each rung. So I'll calculate the length for you. Okay, so I click on OK there. It's one phase. Draw rungs, yes please. Click. And it will put all that in for me. Very simple wiring ladder. I'm not going into too much detail here. We now need to go over here to insert components and our icon menu. This is for schematics. So if I go push buttons there, I want a push button. There's my push button. Now I'm just going to put snap and grid on and zoom in. And you'll see that that lines nicely in with my grid there. So I'm just putting in my push button there. And it's push button 001. Now I can go to panel and it will find panel, push button, they're all in there. So if I select a push button and OK that, there you go. It brings in the information from the panel that I've already used. So I'll OK that now and that all updates for me. There's my push button. It numbers 001 as per the project and drawing settings. So that is how I'm setting up my panel schematic. So if I zoom out a little bit now, and what I'll do is I'll move along to, say, this rung of the ladder here. I go back to the icon menu, and this time I'm going to go for, let's say, pilot lights. There's my pilot lights there. I'll go for, let's say, a standard light, and I want a red light. And I'm just going to drop that in there, line it in with my push button, and again I go to panel. There's my pilot lights. So I'll just select that one there, 004, and I'll OK that. Again, can you see it's pulled it in from the manufacturer's catalogue? Everything is cataloguing because I'm linking it back to the panel. So if I OK that now, there's my pilot light. Now, I might want to edit that attribute a little bit there. It's gone a little bit wayward. So what I'll do is I'll click there, right-click, attribute, and move the attribute. It's asking me to select the attribute to move or pick on the block graphics for list. I'm going to click on that one there. Again, you might want to take snap and grid off when you do this. It makes life a little bit easier. Click there. Right-click to confirm, click for base point, and I'm going to place that there. Much neater, and then press enter to finish. It just tidies up the drawing. I'm being a bit pedantic about tidiness there, considering the simplicity of this particular drawing, but when you've got a really complicated electrical drawing, there's nothing worse than text attributes all over the place, and you can't see the wood for the trees. Use those tools, make it tidy. So what you're doing there is you're building up your schematic for your panel using the panel information that's already installed in the panel in the project. It's very, very easy to do. All you've got to do is use that panel button. So I'll show you one more time. I'll go to the icon menu and we'll go for a push button again. And what I'll do, I'll go for the push button, normally open, snap and grid on. Line it in like so. Go to panel. There's the panel there. So I go for, let's say, the next one down. Push button. I OK it. Brings in the manufacturer's details. Click on OK. And it updates. Sequentially, it's obviously push button 002 this time, because obviously it's the next one along in the numbering that we've set up in both the project settings and the drawing settings. So you see how that works? It ties everything together, and you see how intelligent that is once you've already built up your panel. You can generate a panel footprint and a panel enclosure from a schematic list. So you can go and find the schematic components that you've got in the list and add them straight away to your panel. Let's have a look at that now. Now I've got a new drawing set up for you, JIC, panel from schematic there. So what we'll do is we'll go here, right click, add active drawing as usual, apply the project default values. Now you'll notice, because I've done a save as from another drawing, I need to just update the properties of the drawing there and change that to a sheet value of 6 so that we're sequential on the drawing list in the project. Okay, let's have a look at this now and how this works. We go up to the panel tab now, and instead of using the icon menu, we're going to use the schematic list by referencing the schematic component list in the project. So if I do that now, look, there's all my components, and there's the ones that I want to insert on the panel. So what I might do is select all of these, and what I'm going to do there is I'm going to manually insert them. So there's the two there. Now I'm just going to prompt for each location in this case. There's the insert order of the push button and the pilot light. You'll notice there's no nameplate. It's not actually a schematic component. So when I click on OK now, there's the catalog lookup for the first one. So I just click on OK again. I don't need to look it up again. It's there. It's looked it up for me. So there's my push button. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that snap and grid are on. And I'll just zoom and pan so I've got a bit more clarification there on my drawing. And what I'll do, I'll snap exactly there, like that. Rotation, just press enter to accept the default. There's my push button there. It's component tag PB02 in this case. I might change that to push button 01. Click on OK. And now the next bit, you'll notice the number has changed. So I'll click on OK again. I need to pick a location, but again, it's looking things up for me, so give it time. You'll notice there, can you see it's looking it up, it's doing the wildcard match, and there's my pilot light. So I can line that in there using the snap and the grid, specify the location, press enter for rotation, and there's my pilot light. And that component tag has come in at 001, which is fine, so I'll OK that. That updates as well. Now I can go and select these as much as I like because they're part of my schematic components that are already in the project somewhere. Now I know in this particular case it's my panel layouts project, and I know that they're my push buttons and my pilot lights because I set them up previously on the schematic. So I click on close. Other drawings in the project may include child components and things like that. Remember the parent-child sibling environment? So what you might want to do is do a batch process update. So we OK that, save the drawing, we OK that, and it saves the drawing. And can you see now it's going through each of the project drawings to make sure that everything's updated for me. Isn't that nice? It's so quick and easy once you've got everything linked together. So you can link and create your panel from an existing schematic. So you might draw the schematic first, or you might draw the panel first. Which would you do? It's panel first and create the panel footprint. You then create the schematic from that footprint. And then when you want to create another panel, you know that you've got those components on the schematic already, so you can bring them in to the new panel, maybe a second panel, a third panel that you're creating on this particular project. You quite often use DIN rails when you're creating panels. These DIN rails are used to attach things in the panel enclosure, and you can set them up very, very quickly and easily. I've created a new drawing, again sequentially, using DIN rails there. So again, project, right click, add active drawing. This will be 007, so apply the project default values. It'll update. And you'll notice there I need to change the drawing properties, purely from the viewpoint that I need to make sure that my numbering is sequential. And as usual, can't stress it enough, always link your drawings to your project. Now, let's have a look at these DIN rails. I go to schematic, and I go to icon menu. Now, are there any DIN rails in there? No, because it's part of our panel footprint. So I'll cancel that and go to the panel tab, and this time go to the icon menu for the panel tab, and you'll see that we've got DIN rails in there. Be aware of that. When you're creating your panel, you use DIN rails, not your schematic drawing. So DIN rail there. I can select a DIN rail from the list, and as you can see, lots of different ones there. There's a 3-foot long one there, an AB, or I could go for a meter long, and as you can see, different imperial and metric settings there. I'm going to go for a Newark snap track, that one there, and I'm going to pick the rail information. And what that does is it asks for the insertion point of the rail. So I'll snap to the end of that line I've drawn there, and then it asks for the end point of the rail. I'll go to the other end of the line as well. So the length of that is 25 inches long. And it's going to be obviously horizontal because the line's horizontal and the scale is 1:1. Now in this particular case, obviously if I've got a metric one that I want to use, let's say on an imperial drawing, I can set the scale 1 divided by 25.4. And that'll give me the right ratio and scale it accordingly. So those settings are really useful. I can use imperial or metric on any given panel drawing in any given AutoCAD electrical project. Panel mounting will be holes I'm going to go for, and I'm going to click on OK, and there's my DIN rail. Newark catalogue, it's all in place, so what I might put there is just DIN rail in the description there. I can obviously add information to this item number. For example, it might be, let's say, DR001, DIN rail 001. And I'll click on OK there, and there's my DIN rail in place. That's how easy it is. I might want to take some wiring from that. So I go from the schematic, and what I can do now is make sure that I use my wire command. Make sure that you're on the right layer. Don't use the 0 layer. You want to be on the right layer for that particular drawing. So we'll use wires, and like I've always done before, I then go down to the wires and select the color, and I'm going to make it red. That's purely so it stands out on the drawing for you guys. But what I might do now is zoom in there, and you can see there I can take a wire off of this DIN rail if I want to, by going to schematic, and then just wire there. If I take that off of there, can you see the snap kicking in nearest? And then it comes off, and I can line that in with, say, here. But what I'll do, I'll take snap and grid off, and I'll put O snap on, and then as I hover here, can you see I can't actually snap to that at all. It's just purely a panel enclosure. So what I might do there is obviously snap that to something on the schematic, or perhaps show where that connects to a different circuit. In this case, as you can see, I'm just dropping things in to show you how they work. I'm not actually building an actual panel here. I'm just showing you how these things work so that you can apply them to the panels that you use in your occupation at work. So that's your DIN rails, and that's how you can see you can pull wiring off of a DIN rail. It's common practice when you're creating a panel enclosure drawing to utilize terminal strips. Now what you would do is you'd put your terminal footprint into your panel enclosure. And each of the connections on those terminals then links back to your schematic drawing, your terminal connectors on your schematic drawing, to show where those wires and those connectors come into the panel from the components in the schematic. I know that sounds a bit wordy, but basically you create a schematic to show the wiring and the components. You then put the terminal strip in the panel to show where those connections from those components come into the panel enclosure. Let's look at that now by first of all adding our active drawing to the project. Let's apply the project default values, and again get into that good habit of doing that every time. We now need to go to the panel tab on the ribbon and to the terminal footprints panel here. We go to editor. It'll automatically ask to save the drawing, and you say OK to that. The reason being is it's updating any information. Now you'll notice there are 6 components that come into our terminal strip. So what I do is I select the strip, click on edit, and there's all the information there. So you can see there's our push button there, for example. If I scroll down, there's other information and other wires linking to that. But there's different pins, different wires, and I'm not going to go into too much detail there. What would happen is you're linking left and right to the terminal strip. You can see that, for example, on the left, I've got PB01 there, and then coming out here, I've got PB01 as well. So it's an in and an out across the terminal strip. Catalog code assignment, I can specify a manufacturer. and a catalogue number or specification there, and obviously make sure that goes to the bill of materials. Cable information, that's where it's coming through. There's the number there, jumper and jumper, because it jumps across. Obviously, because what we're doing here is we're going from one connection to another. And then there's the layout preview. Now, what you can see here are my 6 connectors going across my terminal strip there. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I'm going to show a graphical terminal strip. Total terminals is 6. Overall distance 1.5 between each. And you can see the default list for the annotation format there. So I can have wire number only and so on and so forth. You can see the annotation format changing underneath. The scale is 1. It's 1:1 because I'm using JIC Imperial. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on Insert, and there's my terminal strip there. I'll zoom in a bit so we can see what we're doing. So I would then place this inside my panel enclosure like that. Click on OK. Click on Done. And there we are. So it's showing there wires and wires. I haven't changed any of those descriptions, but what you would do, you'd edit those and edit the information in the terminal strip editor. So that's how you use your terminal strips within your panel enclosure. Up until now, we haven't really looked at how we configure our panel drawing. As you can see there, I've got a push button there, and if I hover over it, it tells me it's on the layer P Sims, panel symbols, and you'll notice that that is also on panel symbols, and all these parts here of my terminal strip are also on panel symbols. If we go to the panel tab, you'll see other tools. We've got a configuration option and a flyout, and you can see there's various bits of information about configuration. Let's look at that after we've added the drawing to the project. So as usual, project click, right click over the project, add active drawing, yes to apply the default values, and make sure in the list here that you select the drawing, right click, properties, drawing properties, and update the sheet number. Can't stress enough, make sure you do it. Good CAD practice. So we're back in our panel enclosure drawing now, and we're going to the panel tab and into configuration. And I'm going to select configuration first. Now, as soon as I do that, you'll see that there's all these settings that you can work with. For example, item numbering. That would normally be 001 in my case. That's what I prefer. And you'll notice as I've worked through these particular videos, I've always tried to make my sequential numbering 001 onwards. Footprint layers. So what about footprint layers? What can I do there? If I go setup, can you see any footprints that come in? They've got standard layer names. I can edit those layers. I can edit the nameplate layers, for example. So if I find my nameplate, I should be able to find the layers that the nameplate is on. I'll just cancel that for a moment and cancel that as well. Have I got a nameplate on this drawing? At the moment, no, I haven't. On previous drawings, though, we did set up the nameplate footprint. So I could go in and edit that nameplate set of layers in the configuration here. Wiring level defaults. If I do a setup there, I've got wiring levels. Now, when you're creating complicated electrical drawings, the wirings can go onto different levels within the wiring schematic and the panel configuration. So you've got lowest, subplate or pan, and then the next level up might be another level above that wiring, and so on and so forth. So just be aware of that with AutoCAD Electrical. You can have your wiring on different levels. Panel wire connection, XYZ offset reference. So you can set, if you've got levels, you're going into almost 3D territory. You've got XYZ offsets and things like that. Footprint inserts, scaling, attribute template insert, again, enabled by scale factor, and various spacings as well for multiple inserts. So you can set all of this up. We'll cover balloon setup later. So I'm just going to OK that and accept all of the offsets there. Now, when I'm configuring things in the drawing, what I can do is I can edit information. So the next one down is rename layers. I can actually rename the panel layers that are used in my drawing. So for example, I noticed that I had P-Sims. So there's P-Sims there. And when we looked at the objects in the panel drawing, they were on the P-Sims layer. So if I go edit and change that to P-Symbols, like so, avoid the double S at the end and click on OK, that updates the name of that layer. So when I click on OK, you'll see down here now, renamed P-Sims symbols. So if I hover over this now, it's still block reference, but it's on layer 0. That was brought in on layer 0 when we brought the panel enclosure in, but these objects here are on P symbols now. What I can do there as well is I can just update the layers, and I can select an update. So I can select here and right click and confirm. That updates that from layer 0 to layer P symbols. So I can update objects using those tools in the configuration as well. So using your panel drawing configuration, you can edit, update and change layer names as per any required specification in your AutoCAD electrical projects. When you start creating panel enclosure drawings and also regular schematic drawings, there is a need to number and balloon your drawing. So what you're doing is you're adding item numbers to the drawing. So each object is itemized and you can have balloons coming off of those items showing the actual numbers, the item numbers for each particular component. Now I'm in our panel enclosure drawing right now and I've got the push button right here. And what I've also got here is the pilot light symbol in the panel enclosure, the one that we looked at earlier. What I'm going to do before I do anything else, there's the item numbers and ballooning drawing. So project, right click, add the active drawing, yes to that. It'll update, make sure you right click and with your drawing properties there, change the sheet number. This time we're into tens now, so it's 010 and we'll OK that. Just get into the habit of doing it. It's good CAD practice. We go into the panel tab and you'll notice in the insert component footprints panel here, I've got balloon, wire annotation and panel assembly. When I'm doing a panel assembly, you can see there that I can bring in panel footprint assemblies that have been W blocked out. In this case, I don't need to do that. Wire annotations, I can insert schematic wire connection information onto panel footprints. So you'll see there in the table, next to that particular pilot light, there's the numbering and the linkages to that particular pilot light. And there's my balloon containing the item number of a selected component. That's the one that we need. I'm going to click on balloon and come into the drawing area, and you can see there, it says on the command line, set up or select component for balloon. I'm just going to change my drafting settings. I've got that jerky snap and grid going on. Let's just lose those. I'm also going to switch on dynamic input so that we can see that on the pick box prompt there. So it says set up or select component for balloon. Now you'll remember in configuration up here in other tools, I was able to look at my balloon setup. I don't need to keep going back to the configuration. What I can do is just type S, enter, and that takes me into the panel balloon setup dialog box. So at the moment, my balloon size is 0.375 inches and it's a circle, and I can have an ellipse if I want to, a polygon. It's entirely up to me what I use. I'm going to stick with circle and I'm going to make that slightly bigger. I'm going to go for 0.5, half an inch, and the text size, I'll make that 0.25. And the arrow size, again, we'll make that 0.25. Now I'm making those quite big, just purely so they stand out on this drawing. Arrow type, I can have a closed filled arrowhead. I tend to use a dot on most of the leaders and balloons that I use on a drawing. So I'll click on OK there, that's all set up. Now I can select the component for a balloon. So I've selected it and now it asks me for the leader start point. So if I do a shift and a right click now, and I go for nearest on the object snap override menu, I can go for a nearest snap anywhere on the edge of that circle. So I'll click about there, drag my leader out to about there, and there's my leader there. What I will do is put polar on. And then I get a nice little horizontal landing line there like that, and click once and press enter now, and it takes me into the item number matching dialog. Now I've got no item number listed to match this particular catalog part number. I haven't actually put anything in the component editor when I've brought it into the drawing. So I can give it an individual item number, or I can use next. I'm going to give it an item number of 001. Click on OK. That updates. And it says in other drawings, it may include child-related components. I'll update that now. So we'll do a batch update and we'll OK that. Now something you'll notice there, can you see my balloon, the text is a bit too big. So what I can do, S for setup, enter. I'll change that diameter there to 0.65 and I'll OK it. Now I'm going to select the component for a balloon. Now, if I select this component again, it's already got a balloon attached. Would you like to delete the existing and insert a new balloon? Yes, please. And then it asks for the leader start point. So it's a shift and a right click again. Nearest snap, so I can go anywhere on the circle. Click about there, drag that up there, take the polar across for the landing, click there, enter to finish, and it updates, and the 001 now fits the circle. I can go to the next one, which is my pilot light, select that component, specify leader start or balloon insert point. I've got an endpoint snap there that I could get if my O snaps were on. So I switch O snap on. None of them were actually on at that particular point in time, so I'll go for endpoint just for now. There's an endpoint snap there, click, take that up to there. Now what I could do here is I've got O track on. If I hover over that endpoint there and drag, I can line that in like that. So when I click there and then take my landing off horizontally and click there, that aligns with the landing for the 001 balloon. Press enter. Again, it prompts me that there is no actual item number match for this. I might put item 002 or I might use next. Now at the moment it's telling me the next one is 1. I'm going to change that to 002 because I know that that needs to be my next item number. Or let's just delete that and list what's in the drawing already. So there's 001 there. So I could go back to my list, and if it was a push button with that particular manufacturer, block name push button 11, I could very easily update that, but it's not a push button, so I can't use that. So I'll go there, item 002. Click on OK, and there's 002. It'll update that now and save the drawing for me. So I've updated that. I'll press enter to confirm. As you can see, it goes through the entire project, updating everything as we go, making sure those item numbers update across the project. So everything is done, tidied up, and it's working its way through the project quite happily there. That's what I love about AutoCAD Electrical. You get that option to update everything in the database, rather than spend hours going back to drawings trying to find what you've itemized and what you've ballooned. Very, very clever system. In the same way as you generate reports around schematic drawings, you can also generate panel reports as well. Very easy to do, and like I've done before, I've got a new drawing, JIC panel reports. The usual thing, right click, add active drawing to project, and yes, apply the project default values. Make sure you do that, and obviously make sure your drawing properties are appropriate as well with your sheet number. Just get into the habit of doing it. Like I always say, can't stress it enough, good AutoCAD electrical CAD practice. Here we are in the drawing. I've left a space there for my report. We go to the Reports tab on the ribbon. There's our schematic reports there. Now we've looked at those previously. Let's have a look at panel reports now. It's a very similar environment. The dialog box is the same. We can select a particular report for project or active drawing. We've got components, nameplates, and so on. So it's all panel materials that we need to think about there, such as nameplates, wire connections, and so on. I'm going to do a bill of material, and I'm going to do it project-wide for this particular project, and I'm going to include all of the options that I need to include. So, project, all of the above, nameplates, cables, connections. I'm going to list the terminal jumpers, and what I'm also going to do is do a normal tallied format and freshen the project database. If I go to format there are no previous report format settings in place, so I can cancel that. Installation codes, location codes, I'll go for all, and I'll click on OK. I select all of the drawings for the project and click on OK again, like we've done previously. Is it OK to save this drawing? So I'll click on OK. Now, this might take some time. In this case, it's a small project with only 11 drawings in it, so it doesn't take long. If you've got 250 drawings that are very busy though, it could take some time. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to use my header settings and add everything like I did previously, so it's all neat and tidy. It's got the date and the time, descriptions, items, tags, all listed in the table there. And I'm going to put this on the drawing. I'm not going to save it to a file. I'm going to put it on the drawing in the space that I've got in the drawing right now. Insert a new table, height and spacing. I'm going to leave everything as is. I'm not going to change anything, and I'm going to put it on the miscellaneous layer and click on OK. There's my table there. Ooh, close, close. Just need to pan across ever so slightly. And the nice thing about that, table stays where it is. Objects pan like that. And I'm going to place it there and click on close. and there's my table. Now, it has kind of done something a bit weird there. I'm not quite sure. Let's do a regen. And there you go. It was just some debris left over. Probably my graphics card being a little bit slow. But if you do see that happen, just type that regen, R-E-G-E-N, and enter, and it will update the drawing. It's not something that's wrong with the drawing. It's just where the graphics card might have got a little bit confused there because I panned when I was placing my report there. So there's my report for the entire project sitting on my drawing. Very, very easy. It's exactly the same process as schematic reporting, so I could output that to a file if I wanted to as well. So what I could do here, bill of material for project, click on OK, and you can see there I can select all the drawings and OK it, and I'll do an OK there to save the drawing. Dialog box comes up again. I could set all those headers there like that, and instead of doing put on drawing, I could save to file instead. So I could save it to an Excel file or an MDB file and so on and so forth. In this case I don't need to, so I'm just going to close. So as you can see there, very easy to do a report on your panel instead of your schematics. So if we zoom in there, you can see modular enclosure, red pilot light, nameplate, push button, and another pilot light. So you can see there's information there. This is what's really nice. Gives you all of the catalog numbering, the quantities, the item tags. Very, very useful. Use that panel reporting. Great for bills of materials on objects that you've got in your panel enclosure.